Braveheart. That was Mel Gibson's second time directing a movie. Historical movie in a way. Took some liberties. I was reading about this. The screenwriter, whose name I don't have in front of me, apparently went on a tour of Scotland and was inspired by these statues of William Wallace and all this stuff, and asked the tour guide, "Who's that guy?" And the guy told him, and he was like, "Oh, this is an amazing story." And before doing any research, he wrote the script and then kind of went back and added stuff after the fact because he really just wanted to just tell a story. And
I think that's great. I love historical fiction. I enjoy getting some history out of my movies, but I also like sometimes just a great yarn. And Braveheart is a superb yarn and a superbly directed yarn. The battle scenes in Braveheart, there just hadn't been anything like that kind of mass scale ultraviolet action sequence to precede it. It was
that scene where they've got the spears at their feet and the charging cavalry can't see them, and he's just telling them to hold and he's just telling them to wait. And you're like, what is he doing? Because the audience doesn't really know what's going on at that point either. So it's like terrifying.
Yeah.
And then when they just impale all these horses, that's like probably the only time in my life I've ever cheered for horses being impaled, actually.
Yeah. And it's goofy in places. I mean.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it draws really heavily from George Miller's directing style, because that's like, I mean, Mel Gibson learned how to direct by hanging out and being in movies and watching directors work, and a lot of the, he said before, a lot of the stunts in Braveheart were inspired by Mad Max's crazy battle sequences. He just was...
So it all comes full circle.
Yeah,
He's got Mad Max in the movie.
Exactly,
and apparently he couldn't direct unless he was actually the star as well, I heard.
Yeah, basically because he didn't have enough clout kind of directorially, they weren't sure how he was going to perform, and this is this massive historical epic. They're like, you can make this movie if you're in this movie, because then we can say it's a Mel Gibson movie, and then, you know, people will go see it, as opposed to, you know,
yeah, and I think the cool thing is that even though it was not at all historically accurate, I mean, there was no bridge at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. I mean, where's the bridge? But I think it's like 300. If you went into 300 expecting Herodotus play-by-play, I don't know what to tell you. So, I mean, it's one of those things where as soon as you saw it was Mel Gibson starring as William Wallace, who, according to legend, was like, you know, somewhere between 6'5" and 7 feet tall, and, you know, was just very seasoned warrior, and I just...
You can shoot fireballs from his eyes and lightning bolts from his ass.
Yeah.
Is that what the quote was?
Something very close to that.
I like the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, you probably noticed that I don't fit the description.
I watched that movie pretty recently, and there's a specific kind of style of schmaltz that exists in mid-90s movies, and there's some like really just like borderline R&B video levels of just like just Mel Gibson being like extra dreamy and just kind of like smoldering and like.
And you have to love the French Queen and him have an affair because reasons.
Yeah, he's apparently the father of Edward the Third.
Yes,
Edward the Third.
Yeah, when people are like, "Oh, Hollywood," I mean, they're kind of pointing at movies like this very specifically. But then, I mean, Mel Gibson is also kind of like, he's sort of gone off and done his own thing a little bit too. He did not star in Passion of the Christ because I don't think studios gave him money for that. And Apocalypto, I don't know what he did with that one, but you know, he commits to it. You got to give him that.
Once upon a time, he rode a horse up some stairs, killed a guy in his bedroom with a morning star, and rode the horse out the window into the ocean. That was a good thing that happened there.